Sometimes in life, I think the most valuable thing that we can do as human beings is to choose correctly, or rather, to choose in ways that we find meaningful, because that's all life is. Life is just about making choices, about making the choices that matter to us the most. However, I'm pretty sure in most circumstances it doesn't feel like it, because it just feels like we are just being stringed along by life. We are just being pushed around like we are just a drop of water in a large wave. And I realize that sometimes it's really fucking tough to make proper choices because life pressures us. Perhaps it might be our friends, perhaps it might be our boss, our employment, our place of work, perhaps it might be the economy. It might be a whole lot of things that pressures us to make choices that we just do not like. Like, for example, some of you may have an interest in music and you want to pursue, like, you want to pursue a passion in it, you want to basically make it your full-time career. However, you do realize that it's not the most financially stable, so you're not going to pursue it. You're going to do something else that does not align with your goals or your passions, and that's okay, in my opinion. Sure, you might be pressured by all sorts of things to not do what you want. However, I think that's a perfectly human response, and I don't think it's entirely wrong, nor do I think it's something to shame people over. Because think about it, it's just a completely normal thing. Like back in the day, when we were cavemen and cave women, when we were, going out to hunt certain animals, like let's say a small animal like a rabbit, but then out of nowhere a giant tiger popped up, we are probably going to be scared shitless. We were probably scared shitless, and we would probably have backed off from it very quietly, very slowly, and we would most likely not have entered that area again because that tiger was there. We were pressured by the tiger to not do it. So that's why I think that if you are the type of person that gets pressured, there's nothing wrong with you. You are just being a human being. Now, I do realize that if you keep on getting pressured all the time by external situations in which you don't really need to get pressured in, like, it might not be the most useful thing for you in your life. Yeah, I understand that. I understand that it might not be the most useful thing. However, what I am saying is that there's absolutely nothing wrong with you if you do in fact get pressured like that. It does not make you less of a human, but rather I think it makes you more of a human, because that's just a part of our nature. So then if it's a part of our nature, then what do we do when it works against us? Well, what I mean by that is sometimes we get pressured in situations in which it might not be the most useful. Like some of us, like let's take a somewhat extreme example. Some people have phobias of cats. So when they see a cat walking down the street, they're going to be like, oh shit, nope, nope, not today, you son of a bitch, you know? Now, it's not a useful thing to feel in those, in a public setting like that. However, I like to believe that it's a normal part of being a human, a normal experience of a human, in my opinion. So, but even though it's a normal experience, it's not entirely useful. So then it becomes a question of whether it's being useful or not useful. It's not a question of is it a problem or is it a problem with me, but rather is it something that's useful for me or is it something that's not useful for me? And how can I make it useful for me instead of being not so useful? So then, yeah, then I guess the next part of it is, how can I change in these situations in which I'm not behaving in useful ways so that I can be useful? I think that's the next part of it. The next part of it is just changing into someone whom into someone who is more useful than the person who was. So then all it boils down to is how you are going to change, because we change all the time. Like, whether we realize it or not, we change all the time. Like, when you were a kid, when you were 12 years old, you were a completely different person to how you are now. And at exactly what point did you change? Do you think that, like, when you turn 13 you change into a completely different person, and that's why you are like the way you are now? Or do you think that you gradually change over time, even if you didn't realize you were changing at that time of change, but you still change, you gradually change over time to the person that you are now? It's most likely the latter. Most people, they don't change like that. They don't, like, it's not like a snap of a finger, it's not like a on and off switch. It's not like they wake up one day a completely different person. It's more like they make small gradual changes that we don't even realize at first in the present. However, we do realize it after we have made a significant enough change to a point in which we can realize it. Like, I know it probably sounded a little bit complex, but I'll try my best to simplify it. What I'm saying is that we make gradual changes. However, when we are making those gradual changes, we don't realize it because they are so small, it escapes our notice. However, after a certain period of time, after these small changes build up, they become a massive change. And when we look back on the past, we realized, oh shit, we have changed a lot. Because those small changes have gradually built up to these bigger, larger things. So, and that's how, in my opinion, we build up to more useful things. It's not that one day we wake up more useful compared to the last day. It's more that we do small things. We gradually and slowly build our way into something in which we are more useful in. So basically, the whole memo is just to make small changes every single day until these small changes continually build up to a big change. And the thing about these small changes is that most people are like, okay, I get that we have to make fucking small changes, but most people know that they have to make small changes. If you're watching this video, you probably know that too, and you have tried doing that. However, there is a chance that you might have failed. You might have failed in making these small changes. Like, you might have tried for years and years to make these changes. However, for whatever reason, you still can't get those big changes that you really want. You might be changing in other areas of your life in which you do not care about. However, in the areas in life in which you do care about, in the areas of life in which you do care about, you're not changing. Sorry about that. And I think that's a perfectly normal thing. And I think it's also a very reasonable thing. And the main reason I say that is because, think about it like this. Most people want to change their problems. Like, it's just common sense. Like, if you have a problem, you would like to change it. And the bigger your problem is, the more emotionally invested you are in it. So just think about it. The bigger your problem is, the more emotionally invested you are in it. So what happens when you are extremely emotionally invested in a problem? That's right, you start to think from your emotions rather than your brain, rather than that logical part of it. So since you're so emotionally invested, you are going to be blindsided to all of the possible solutions or the possible flaws or the possible opportunities, because you're not thinking from up here, but rather you're thinking from up here. You're thinking from sadness, you're thinking from anxiety, you're thinking from depression. You're not thinking from logic. So this is where most people go wrong. They try to fix their biggest problems at first. They don't try to fix their small problems first. So no fucking wonder they can't fix their big problems, because they are so emotionally invested in those problems. So why try to fix your big problems first when you yourself don't have much experience in fixing your own shit? And sure, some of you may do, but even if you did have a lot of experience, it's always harder to fix the biggest aspects about yourself. So why bother with the big aspects when you can start smalling those extremely small problems about you? And guess what? The more small problems that you fix, what's going to happen is eventually you are going to learn more about yourself. You are going to develop more self knowledge, more self acceptance. And then what's going to happen is that you yourself are going to grow stronger as a result of it. And as you grow stronger, what happens? That big problem seems weaker and weaker. Because think there's like 5 small problems and one big problem, one like humongous large problem and small 5 problems. Now, if the big problem is like a level 10, and each of these small 5 problems are like a level 0.5 or like a level 1, and you yourself, you are like a level 1 too, okay? You are weak. You are like a level 1 too. So why are you trying to solve a level 10 problem when you are a level 1? Why not just solve the level 1 problems and grow stronger and keep on growing stronger until you become a level 10 yourself, so you can actually target that big problem? But you know what the funny thing is? The more you target these small problems instead of the big problems, you are going to grow so strong to a point in which that the big problem no longer seems big. It seems small. And that's how you make realistic change. You don't start with the big problems first. You start with the small problems, and you slowly dissolve them. You slowly and gradually dissolve them until they dissipate. And eventually, after you build enough experience, you can then target the big problems. And that's how you create a life in which you are being useful to yourself. I think that's everything that I want to talk about, and I hope you enjoy. See ya.